In an age of carbon fiber wings and AI-driven cockpits, a handful of cargo planes still roar through the skies, machines built when slide rules were cutting edge, and pilots trusted their gut more than a computer. While modern jets sip fuel and whisper at 40,000 feet, these legends rattle, rumble, and work. They land on ice, gravel, dirt, and jungle clearings, places where even the bravest new aircraft refuse to tread. These are the 10 cargo planes that just won't die, still flying, still hauling, and still making money, decades after the world moved on. When Airbus flew the A300 for the first time in 1972, it wasn't chasing nostalgia, it was chasing Boeing. The A300 became the world's first twin-engine wide-body airliner, a bold gamble that paid off and paved the way for every modern Airbus jet. Half a century later, its freighter variant, the A300-600F, still moves mountains of cargo for UPS, which operates over 50 of them. Air Hong Kong sent its last one to the boneyard in 2025, but UPS has no rush to follow. These freighters are fully paid off, updated with glass cockpits, and perfectly sized for short, dense domestic routes. Sure, an A330 burns less fuel, but a jet that's already paid for burns no capital. In aviation, that math keeps you alive longer than any efficiency chart. The Hercules doesn't care about comfort, polish, or prestige. It was designed to land where there are no runways. Since its first flight in 1954, this flying forklift has served everywhere from Antarctic outposts to desert oil rigs. Its civilian twin, the L-100, does the same, lifting 40,000-pound loads into airstrips that barely exist. Linden Air Cargo in Alaska still flies these beasts into gravel and ice with ease, their crews landing in whiteouts and sub-zero wind chill. The C-130's genius is its indifference. Short fields, rough terrain, no problem. If a plane can roll up its sleeves and say, let's go to work, it would be the Hercules. When the Soviet Union needed a jet that could move tanks and land on dirt, they built this. The Ilyushin IL-76 first flew in 1971, and 54 years later, it's still thundering into places other jets can't even taxi to. Modernized Ilyushin IL-76 TD-90VDs with PS-90 engines now fly under Silkway Airlines and Volga Neptner, delivering heavy cargo into rough, remote airfields across Africa and Central Asia. A fully loaded IL-76 can lift around 110,000 pounds, then drop onto a 6,000-foot strip of gravel like it's nothing. It's not a cargo jet, it's a sledgehammer with wings. Built as the Soviet answer to the Hercules, the Antonov An-12 took its first flight in 1957, and somehow it's still at work 68 years later. Operators like Kavok Air in Ukraine and Avem Aero continue to run these smoky, howling turboprops across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. One Kavok aircraft retired in 2025 after 58 years of service, yet others still fly daily. Why? Because when the job is remote, the budget is thin, and the runway is made of gravel, a paid-off An-12 makes more sense than a brand new jet. The An-12 doesn't apologize for being old, it just keeps showing up. Most people think of the 737 as the world's most common jetliner, but not this one. The 737-200C, fitted with a rare gravel kit, was built for Canada's frozen north. The kit adds metal shields, air deflectors, and special vortex dissipators that let it take off from unpaved icy strips. Nolanor Aviation from Quebec still operates a fleet of these time capsules, serving Arctic mines and remote communities. Watching one lift off a snow-covered runway, engines swallowing gravel and ice, is like seeing history claw its way back into the sky. They're loud, inefficient, and utterly irreplaceable. The Electra shouldn't exist anymore. It was born into a jet age that immediately left it behind. But the Lockheed L-188 Electra, first flown in 1957, evolved into one of the toughest turboprop freighters ever built. Today, Buffalo Airways and Airspray still fly them in Canada, hauling cargo in winter, then switching to firefighting in summer. With payloads of up to 30,000 pounds, it's the perfect in-between aircraft, big enough for freight, nimble enough for short strips. The Electra is proof that reliability outlives relevance. By now you've probably noticed a pattern. None of these planes are supposed to exist, and yet they thrive. That's because cargo aviation plays by a different rulebook. When your passengers are barrels of fuel or bulldozer parts, luxury doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can land, unload, and get out alive. A brand new freighter might save 10% on fuel. A 60-year-old one saves millions in loan payments. Once depreciation hits zero, every flight is profit. And then there's something else, something you can't buy: institutional knowledge. Crews who know every quirk of these planes by heart, mechanics who can machine their own parts, pilots who can land on ice by instinct. It's not nostalgia keeping these planes alive, it's economics, craftsmanship, and grit. Post-war America wanted speed, luxury, and range, and in 1946, the Douglas DC-6 delivered all three. But when jets took over, the DC-6 found a new purpose: survival flying. Evert's Air Cargo in Alaska still uses DC-6s to haul freight, fuel, and supplies to villages unreachable by road. They're slow, noisy, and utterly dependable, able to land on frozen lakes or dirt strips with 30,000 pounds of fuel on board. Each takeoff feels like watching the 1940s roar back to life. 4 radial engines pounding against the sky, doing a job no modern aircraft can replace. Few jets have a cult following like the Boeing 727. It was once the workhorse of passenger aviation, and now it's the tri-jet that refuses to fade. The 727's 3-engine design and rugged landing gear make it perfect for Latin America's shorter, high-altitude runways. Aerosecure in Colombia, Air Class in Uruguay, and USA Jet Airlines in the US still use them today. Each takeoff is a time machine, the whine of 3 JT-8Ds, smoke trailing, flaps drooping. They may be thirsty, but for certain routes, there's still nothing better. The 727 doesn't care about the noise, it cares about the job. The Douglas DC-8 was Boeing's first true rival. Introduced in 1958, it helped define the jet age, and somehow a few of them are still at it 67 years later. The re-engined DC-870 series with CFM56 turbofans cut fuel burn, quieted the roar, and kept the type legal for decades. Today, only a handful remain: Trans Air Cargo Service in the Congo, Skybus Jet Cargo in Peru, and one remarkable example: Samaritan's Purse, a US humanitarian group that uses a DC-872 to deliver aid worldwide. When disaster strikes, this old jet is often first in, carrying food, water, and hope to people who've lost everything. Built for commerce, reborn for compassion. And finally, the unkillable legend, the Douglas DC-3, first flown in 1935, 90 years ago. This plane didn't just revolutionize air travel, it created it. It won a world war, then went right back to work. Modernized Basler BT-67s, rebuilt from original DC-3s, now fly with turboprop engines, reinforced frames, and modern avionics. They deliver fuel, mail, and medicine to frozen lakes in Canada and Antarctic research bases. A BT-67 can land on a snow-covered strip the length of a football field, unload by hand, and take off again without a single piece of ground equipment. It's the definition of self-reliance, a machine that refuses to die because the world still needs it. And maybe that's the point. Technology marches forward, but these planes remind us that progress isn't always about replacement. Sometimes it's about endurance. As long as there are frozen runways, forgotten villages, and pilots who still trust their hands more than autopilot, these old cargo planes will keep flying. Proof that in aviation, immortality isn't about being the newest, it's about never giving up.